What's up everybody? In this video I'm going to compare the iPhone SE 2020 with the iPhone 8. Let's go ahead and get started. So both of these phones are 4G LTE devices. They don't have 5G like more modern phones here in 2021. The iPhone SE 2020 was released in 2020. You could also refer to the iPhone SE 2nd Gen, the successor to the 2016 iPhone SE. The iPhone 8 was launched in September of 2017, so there's 3 years between these devices, and they look almost exactly the same. And when I mean they almost look exactly the same, they are pretty much the exact same phone on the outside. They have the exact same dimensions. They're 5.4 inches tall, 2.6 inches wide, 0.29 inches thick. They weigh exactly 5.22 ounces each. So these are fairly small devices, compact devices here in 2021. The iPhone SE 2020 is basically the next iteration. It's like a sequel to the iPhone 8 because that's the next phone with the same shape after the iPhone 8. That's when the iPhone 10 and all the other ones with Face ID started appearing. So basically, I would call this almost like an iPhone 9, the iPhone SE 2020. So it's like a sequel to the iPhone 8, basically. The build quality is a glass front, glass back aluminum frame for both of these devices. So yes, again, there's an exact same phone. If you hold them in your hands, they are indistinguishable from each other. The internals will be different and newer on the iPhone SE 2020. For example, it has the eSIM, which means you don't have to physically get a SIM card to activate service on this phone. iPhone 8 does not have that. You get IP67 dust and water resistance on both of these phones. You can dunk it in water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. The display. Now you have a 4.7 inch Retina IPS LCD on both of these, 65% screen to body ratio. That's because of the bezels on top and the bottom. Resolution 750 by 1334. You break it down, a PPI is 326, which is not too bad. These screens look very, very nice. They're just not up to par like super flagships of today. For software, the iPhone SE 2020 launched with iOS 13, iPhone 8 launched with iOS 11, but they both run the newest version of iOS. So you're gonna run the same type of apps, the same software. They're gonna feel exactly the same. That's the one good thing about iPhones. You're gonna get several years of updates on both of these phones, but the iPhone 8, probably maybe 2 more years of updates. The iPhone SE will be good for about 4 more years. The same apps like FaceTime, iMessage, all the stock iPhone apps will run perfectly fine for many years to come on both of these phones, except once you start getting third-party apps, and they should run almost the same on both of these devices. Obviously the SE 2020 will run them a little bit more faster and open up quicker, and as the years go by, the iPhone 8 will definitely see a big slowdown. And that brings us to the chipset. The iPhone SE 2020 has the A13 Bionic chip versus the iPhone 8's A11 Bionic chip. So the iPhone SE has the same chip as the iPhone 11, and the iPhone 8 Apple A11 is the same chip that's found in the iPhone 10. So both of these phones are borrowing the same chipset from the flagship phone from the same year that they were launched. Both of these are still pretty good here in 2021, especially the SE 2020 chipset. But again, after a few years, you'll start to see slowdowns. But right now, they're both perfectly fine. Storage on both of these phones start off at 64 gigs, which is pretty good. I think most people could survive on 64 gigs of storage, and the RAM is different though. iPhone SE 2020 has 3 gigs of RAM versus the iPhone 8, 2 gigs of RAM. But most apps should run perfectly fine in the background. You have a 12 megapixel shooter on both of these phones, and both of them can shoot video up to 4K. Both of these phones are still very good at taking video and taking pictures in all types of lighting conditions. They are not flagship by any means, but they are still very pleasing to the eye. Take very crisp pictures, crisp videos. We'll have a 7 megapixel selfie camera capable of shooting video at 1080p resolution, so you still got a good selfie camera on these phones. Neither of these phones have that headphone jack, so that's gonna disappoint some people. Bluetooth is the same, 5.0 on both of these. So you'll connect your Apple Watch, your AirPods, your wearables, your headphones, your speakers, all that good stuff. Both of these phones are capable of that. They both have NFC, which means you'll basically just use it for Apple Pay on both of these phones. They both rock the same Lightning port, and they both have the signature Touch ID button, and that's the reason why these phones look old school. They have the big bezels, and the bottom bezel holds the Touch ID sensor. Battery, last but not least, but the battery, both of these phones have a small battery by today's standards at 1,821 milliamps. These batteries will not get you through the day, not at all, not a full day. But luckily, both of them come with fast charging, 50% charge in 30 minutes. The SE 2020 has 18 watt fast charging, 15 watts on the iPhone 8. And you get wireless charging as well. So wrapping this comparison up, I would say that both of these phones are still very usable in 2021, especially the iPhone SE 2020. They look exactly the same. You know, if you're going for an iPhone and you're going by looks, both of these look exactly the same. If you spot them from a few feet away and they're not turned on, and you won't really notice the difference in these. The one thing you will notice though is the price. Both of these are very low price devices. The iPhone SE at launch was $400. The iPhone 8 had, I believe it was around $600 or $700 when it launched. The other thing was $700. Nowadays, Apple doesn't even sell the iPhone 8. The most places don't sell them anymore. It's hard to find. You have to probably get them used. You can only get them, you can get them for like less than $200 used. The iPhone SE is it's a no-brainer. That I would choose that one. I don't know anybody that would choose the iPhone S or the iPhone 8 over the iPhone SE 2020. The iPhone SE 2020 is just the newest version of the iPhone 8. It's like a sequel. You can find it for really cheap too. You can get it on prepaid brand new for $50 on Cricket, for example, or you can get it used for around $175. So the iPhone 8, you could get it for a little bit lower price than that, but why would you want to get an iPhone 8 like 3 chipsets behind? Just doesn't make any sense. Basically, don't get the iPhone 8, get the iPhone SE. If you had to choose between these, it's worth it with the newer chipset, the eSIM. You're gonna get a lot more updates, you can get a lot more use out of it. But physically, you got everything the same. Cameras, size, weight, battery. iPhone SE 2020 will just last you longer, and the performance is gonna be better. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.